Yo, what's up? Today I will show you guys what happened when I supercharged my Tesla Model 3 performance on a version 3 supercharger. So Pawel did a great job yesterday. He drove my car from his home in Ski to Liertoppen. We did a little bit of back and forth driving before we plugged in, just to make sure that we had the warm enough battery. And also we also made sure that we brought it down to almost zero. We brought it down to 2%. So we did all that stuff, and Pawel was the one driving. I'm still in Thailand, so I got some live feed from him via video call, and also look at the app Tesla app to see where he was and all that. And we coordinated it so that we would try to get the best possible charging conditions. So now you'll see the result, and I will explain a little bit what's happening. So this is at least open. We started, okay, he will plug in soon. A little mistake I did was that I kept the heater running. So eventually I will turn off the heater. You see in the bottom the heater left, heater right. So the heater is actually pulling about almost 2 kilowatt at some times. Okay, now it plugs in and it starts ramping up. And immediately you see that the front power and the rear power, I call them the afterburners, they start generating heat to heat up the battery. And you see we managed to get the battery to almost 37 degrees Celsius. That is pretty good conditions. This is what you can expect on a typical summer day when you've driven a couple of hours on highway and then you plug it in with low state of charge. Then this is what you can get. Now it's only 5 degrees Celsius outside, so it's still a cold spring evening in Norway. But you see that we don't immediately get 250 kilowatt. I don't know why. Maybe this is just the way the supercharger works. It slowly ramps up. But it sports 250 kilowatt. We will see it soon. But also soon I will also compare this charging session with an earlier charging session at Ionity. But at Ionity fast chargers, the plug is limited to 500 amp. So once we reach 10%, there will be a time lapse. Right now we are seeing 1-to-1 time. Yeah. Well, actually, I don't know why the clock. One of the clocks is incorrect. I suspect the clock on the car is probably correct, and then the clock on the phone, which is running ScanMyTesla, is incorrect. ScanMyTesla, by the way, is a very nice OBD tool for Tesla. You can find more info about it in the description below. If you wanna, if you have a Tesla, basically. So yes. By the way, so I mentioned that soon enough now, once we hit 10%, there will be a time lapse instead. Then we go 10 times the speed. And then we compare this charging session with the Ionity charging session. So yes, but you see now we almost hit 250 kilowatt now. It starts ramping up. I've never seen so high amp before. So this is something Tesla allows you to do, to go past the 500 amp limit that you actually get in all other charging stations throughout Europe, the way they use CCS. So this is how Tesla can achieve 250 kilowatt by pushing the amp higher than that, or the other way is to go higher voltage. But okay, so on the bottom there, you see the two new screens appear on the bottom. That's the charging session at Ionity, and see that Ionity is capped at 500 amp or 499 for some reason. So it doesn't charge as fast as the supercharger version 3, but you see at the top there now, the version 3, that it already starts throttling. Already now, I'm a little bit disappointed why it started throttling so early, but we'll come back to that. You also notice that the stators, they stopped working now. So they are not pulling extra power to heat up the battery, because the BMS probably figures out that we are the supercharger version 3. The charging process will generate a lot of heat, so there's no need for it. And actually, Pawel said that he heard that the cooling started also. So on hindsight, was it too hot really when we started? Probably not, because the afterburner still fired up in the beginning to heat up the battery. So I still believe that we had optimal temperature. It wasn't too hot. But you see that here something weird happens now. At similar state of charge now, you see that the earlier charging session is actually charging way faster than the current one. So of course we have to offset for the state of charge, but it's, well, okay, you see, it's about 20 kilowatt faster. I'm very disappointed why it is charging so slow. But one thing we have to notice is that the charging session earlier was before the nerf that took away about 2 kilowatt-hour of capacity. So I have also a video about it, that something happened a couple of, let's say 3-4 months ago, where I suddenly lost 2 kilowatt-hour. That could also explain why it's charging slower, but it shouldn't charge slower because Tesla just limited a little bit the battery, you know. But at some point you will see that, yeah, I think around here, around 70% is where the old charging session is suddenly faster than the new one. But again, we have to keep in mind that the new charging session has 2 kilowatt-hour more than the old one. So in reality, it's actually somewhat faster before, but it's not like night and day. You know, I think in the end now you'll find out that the charging session before was 3 minutes faster, and if we offset for the difference in kilowatt-hour, then let's say 5 minutes faster. But most people, when they drive on long trips, they will not charge to 90%. They will probably charge to about 70%, and then you can reach the next fast charger. You see, already now you have well, almost 400 kilometers of range, but at least 200 kilometers of highway speed range. Yeah. I'm not sure what else to say. Okay, I stopped the heater after, well, actually very early. And right now we are just charging to 90% just to see what happens. But yeah, this is very disappointing. You see already also now at higher state of charge, the old charging session is still charging faster than the current one. So overall, I've lost a significant amount of how they put its charging speed over the whole charging curve, pretty much. So why did it happen? Okay, well, we're gonna look at that very soon. I just want to see now what happens towards the end. You also notice something else, is that the battery is for most of the charging. Okay, that one. Okay, you see the previous one now, the old charging session finished. That's it at the Ionity. The new one is not done yet. I wonder if maybe the fast charging. You know, I've seen this before with Model S and X, where, you know, when they boosted up the charging speed on S and X, okay, it's done now. Yeah. So let me explain here. For not a long time ago, actually it's been a while now. Yes, maybe 6 months ago or something, right? Or actually almost a year ago. Time flies so fast. But Tesla, they boosted the maximum speed on Model S and X. Suddenly people were experiencing 130, 140 kilowatts on those cars, right? But when I did record a charging session, I saw that it would charge faster in the beginning, and then the peak speed would be higher, but it also throttle faster. So if you compare that to earlier charging session where it was limited to only 120 kilowatt, then okay, in the beginning, if you arrive with low state of charge, it will go faster, but then eventually the old charging curve was flatter, basically. So if you want to charge to, let's say, 60-70%, the charging time was more or less the same as before. You only had a higher peak. And what effect did it have? Practically for people who are traveling long trips, it didn't matter at all. But it did matter as a PR stunt for Tesla, because people started posting all these pictures of 145 kilowatt, 150 kilowatt. They were bragging about it. But the problem is that it only lasts for a short while and then it drops again. And I wonder if that's also what happens here with this charging session. So I'm going to show you something. Okay, so here we have we have the battery tab on ScanMyTesla, and you see that we have DC charge almost 9,400 kilowatt hour, and we have AC charge less. So DC charge, this number here is the fast charging. It's either on supercharger or Ionity or even 50 kilowatt DC, whereas the AC here is usually slow charging at home or somewhere else. Yes, so you see that I have done a lot of fast charging, and this might be a more typical scenario for Teslas, simply because you have supercharger network throughout Europe and the rest of the world, so people are more encouraged to use the supercharger and they drive on long trips. Okay, all these other numbers are not that interesting, but you see odometer, I have done 58,000 kilometers soon. So this car is over 1 year old now, and I've driven a lot on long trips. And I wonder, we have two theories here. Is this the start of the supercharger nerf? You know, I talked about this before, where cars that have supercharged a lot or DC fast charge a lot, over time it will charge slower until it reaches rock bottom. So as for my Tesla Model X 90D, P90D, what is a 90 kilowatt hour pack, it had that thing. I supercharged a lot, and then the peak charging speed back then was almost 120 kilowatt, but then it started derating over time until it reached the lowest one, which was 95 kilowatt. And then once it hit 95, it stayed there. So I could only achieve 95 for the rest of that battery pack's duration. But then something happened with that battery pack. There was some kind of issue with some of the components there or something. So they replaced it on warranty. I got a new battery pack. What happened then? I could suddenly get almost 120 kilowatt again. But I still supercharge a lot. I pull a trailer. I use a lot of supercharger energy. And then it started derating again until it hit 95 kilowatt max. And is this going to happen with other batteries? Well, we already see it 85 packs getting massive nerf or restrictions, or reduction pretty much. I'm a gamer, so that's why I used the term nerf, well, ex-gamer rather. But 85 packs used to hit 118 kilowatt peak. People were bragging about it. It was kick-ass. I also used to have a P85 Model S. Nowadays, people with 85 packs are pretty pissed because they are usually getting only 50 to 70 kilowatt maximum. It's just insane how slow it charges now compared to before. And why did Tesla do this? Probably because they figured out that by pushing the speed too high over time with a lot of supercharging, it causes problems and it damages the battery. So they, over the air software update, restricted the speed. And okay, back to this one then. What does this have to do with Model 3? Well, maybe we already start seeing derating of MC Hammer because it's supercharged a lot. And we are not able to, we can hit 250 kilowatt, but for how long? But I'm going to show you something here. This graph here. So you see, this one here, the red line here, it's a bit cryptic. A Model 3 US. It was the guy who recorded the charging session in America for a while ago. Supercharger version 3. He arrived with 2%, and you see he got a nice flat curve. It was capped at 250 kilowatt for a long time. And then the yellow line here is my car yesterday. You see, we both started at, we actually had 250 kilowatt before 10%, so I normally start at 10%. But both these had 250 kilowatt in the beginning, and then my car started throttling earlier, but then it kind of stays below it all the way here, you see? And then we also have this turquoise line here. This is the Ionity charging session, which is capped at 500 amps. So you see that this is actually, yes, you see it goes up here and then it slowly rises. And why does it do this? Well, because as I mentioned, the cap is at 500 amp, and then when you have the voltage, power is the charging power in kilowatt is the same as voltage times number of amps. So as you charge up the battery, the voltage will rise, and therefore the charging speed goes up. But you see here, earlier results, it's actually the Ionity charging session I had corresponds more or less with the one from US. So I believe that the red line and the turquoise line here are very optimal charging conditions, meaning that when I arrived here at the Ionity, I had perfect temperature in the battery. It wasn't too hot, too cold. Same with this guy, you see, because it just goes hand in hand like a shadow very much. But then, and also you can say that my charging session yesterday was also very very optimal. You saw the temperature, it was really nice and hot, no Colgate or anything there, but somehow it derate, or it throttled earlier, and it stays. You see, you can see the curve here. It's like it just follows the previous one but lower. Yes. So what is happening here? Why is this happening? And was it too cold outside? No, I don't think so. It was 5 degrees Celsius, but that doesn't matter too much. As long as the battery is nice and warm, then that's no problem. What could it be then? Is it I have two theories. One is that my Model 3 has supercharged a lot, so it started derating, or yeah, and then eventually it will hit rock bottom. Two, Tesla changed something when they removed 2 kWh from the battery. Maybe they figured out that okay, the supercharger version 3 is a little bit too aggressive, so we have to tone it down. Yeah. So otherwise we might kill the battery too fast or something. So I have no idea which one is the case right now, but I believe that these 3 cases you see here is optimal charging conditions. So if we try it again tomorrow or something, we will probably get the same result. But there's one thing I want to try, but then this depends on Pawel, how much time he has, because he has 2 kids, and also both Pawel and Siri, his wife, they are working full-time even during this crisis, so he doesn't have too much time. So kudos to him, by the way, for really doing this for me. But if we have time, or by the time I'm back in Norway again, I guess I want to go to an Ionity charger with MC Hammer and charge and see if I get this curve again like before. Because if suddenly it goes like this and then drops around here or something, or maybe a little bit earlier something, and then it follows the yellow line, then it means that what does it mean? It means that the car has been permanently nerfed for some reason. Yes. We still don't know why, because I still have a theory, of course, that the yellow line here is the charging session was exhausted, like I mentioned with the speed boost with Model S and X, right? So hopefully if we try an Ionity, we can replicate the turquoise or the blue line here, but I have my doubts. I suspect that it will just drop earlier and it will stay like this, and then if I try again in 6 months, then maybe the curve is even lower. It's just below here again, so on. We don't know. There's only one way to find out, right? Which is to keep MC Hammer for a while, and then we'll see what happens. Yes. So anyway, I think that's gonna be it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, thank you for watching, and talk to you later. And before I end, kudos to Pawel for doing this. Yes. So I will promote his referral link, by the way, in the description below. If you want to buy Tesla, check out this link. Thank you, Pawel. Talk to you guys later.